Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday. Of course, match day, just a few hours' time. Arsenal will be kicking off against Sporting Lisbon in the Europa League round of 16, first leg. Tricky looking game for Arsenal. Sporting not having the best of seasons in Portugal, but still a very dangerous side, and will be a difficult game over there in a pretty hostile atmosphere. I've been there, went there a few years ago for when Welbeck scored the winner. And that was a tricky game, and it's a very feisty atmosphere over there, so Arsenal are going to have to deal with that. We'll talk about that in this video. I'll have an attempt at a predicted 11 at the end of it, which I'm sure will be pretty wrong because it's so hard to choose or predict what Mikel Arteta is going to do in a game like this. There will be changes, it's just a case of how many. He did speak last night, of course, in his press conference over in Portugal ahead of the game. Lots of stuff discussed about the sort of challenges now faced of going Europa League, Premier League, Europa League, Premier League, and balancing that, and changes, rotating, and potentially playing two different squads or two different teams for the two different competitions. Mikel was kind of, when he was asked about that again, and I asked him at London Colney about it last week, and he was asked again last night, and in terms of like not quite having the squad that allows him to do that. He said, because at the moment we just have one team and we have to play all the games with the best possible players to win it. At this moment we have made 8 changes in the Europa League, so we do try to accommodate as well. Players have moments in the season where they are available or not available, and tomorrow will be the same case, but for sure we'll try and put the most competitive team together to try and win the game. Of course there's going to be no Kieran Tierney, which is a big blow, because Tierney would have played, no doubt about it, and it's a blow for him, it's a blow for Arsenal, because you want to get minutes into players like Tierney in these games, because then if you do need him in the Premier League, clearly they're sharp. I think we saw with Tomiyasu at the weekend, for example, when he came in for the first half against Bournemouth, he just wasn't quite up to speed. It wasn't the usual Tomiyasu, and that's because he just not played much that much recently, and he's played more than Tierney. And so these would be good games to sort of dust off the cobwebs for the likes of Tierney and potentially, I don't know, a Rob Holding or Jakub Kiwior, even in case you end up needing Kiwior over the last games in the Premier League. It's good that he gets some minutes under his belt in this competition. He said, look, everyone wants to play. It's true that we have wanted to rotate certain players, but they've been injured and unavailable, and that might be the case again tomorrow. I think he's talking about Tierney there. Sometimes it's difficult, but players have to deserve to play the minutes, and being fair in football is very difficult. We want everyone to feel important, and we're going to try and make them feel just that. And I'm sure there will be changes today. We know that. I think certainly at the back there's going to be wholesale changes. It'd be interesting to see what he does up front and whether... I think Martinelli's going to have to play, obviously, because of the injuries Arsenal have got up front. There's going to be no Nketiah, no Jesus, no Leandro Trossard, so Martinelli's basically going to have to play. But other than that, it's really interesting, because the amount of times I've thought there is no way he is going to play Bukayo Saka. No chance he's going to play Bukayo Saka. And then you turn up and Bukayo Saka's starting. It's going to be interesting if that is the case again tonight. You think this is a game you rest Saka. You absolutely rest him. Make sure he's fine for Fulham on Sunday. But the amount of time, even Oxford in the FA Cup, I turned up thinking there is no chance in hell that Mikel Arteta is going to play Bukayo Saka against Oxford. And he did. And he played Gabriel Martinelli as well. So we'll have to wait and see. There is a bit of an illness problem. That's why Kieran Tierney's obviously not travelled today. I saw Kieran at the training ground yesterday. He was walking back to his car in his tracksuit, and clearly wasn't involved in the training session or going away with the squad, which is a shame. As I said, he said, look, these things happen in the season. Sometimes they happen 4 days before a match, sometimes it's 1 day before. We'll deal with that today and tomorrow, and everybody will be in the best possible condition to compete. So hopefully there are not too many other players suffering with illness. It's just the thing that happens in football because of how close you are and how, sharing the changing room and all that sort of thing. If one gets ill, others can get ill, and the last thing Arsenal need right now is a bug sweeping through the changing room. So fingers crossed, by sort of getting Kieran Tierney out of there and not travelling over to Portugal and that sort of thing, that hopefully you've kind of killed that dead, and that it won't become an even bigger problem that it already is. So Gabriel Jesus is the big one. Is he there? Has he travelled? The expectation was, I was down at the training ground yesterday. I saw him in training, in full training, taking a great part of it. The expectation was that he would go, but that's not been confirmed yet. Mikel Arteta was very, very coy about it in his press conference last night. He wouldn't confirm. Arsenal haven't confirmed. No, there was an expectation also yesterday at the training ground that he might go, but not to be part of the matchday squad, if you see what I mean. So he could go be part of the team, sort of stop feeling like part of the team again, but he wasn't going to be used. Maybe he'd go do the warm down again with the substitutes after the match. Personally, to me, that doesn't make too much sense. You know, what's the point in taking him over there just to do a warm down with some substitutes after the match? You may as well just leave him in England and let him continue his sort of recovery and stepping things up at London Colney. So it doesn't make too much sense to me if that is the case. I think you either take him to give him 20 minutes or so, or you don't take him, and we'll have to wait and see what's happened because we don't know yet if he is there. Personally, for me, if you're not going to play him, you just err on the side of caution. You leave him in England. What's the point in taking him over to Portugal just to sort of kick around with the squad? You know, he doesn't really need to do that. You just keep him at London Colney, give him a couple of really hard sessions today and tomorrow with the fitness staff, whoever's not travelled, and get him ready potentially for Fulham at the weekend to get 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So we'll have to wait and see. It'd be brilliant to see him there tonight, to see him come on and maybe get 20 minutes or so. It would be such a big boost to everyone, but he has to be ready. So if there's any sort of fear or any sort of worries, and you know the medical team think maybe it's a game too early, then just I hope that they left him in England and we just potentially see him at the weekend. We all want Gabriel Jesus back. There's no doubt about it. It was fantastic being there yesterday and watching him training, you know, properly going for it. He looked really sharp, quick. He was tearing around. You know, he looked like he hadn't been away. But you don't want to take any risks on him. So if there's any reason to be cautious, then I hope they just decided to leave him at home, and we won't see him tonight, and we'll have to wait until the weekend to see him. So we'll find out. Not too long now until we find out whether or not he has travelled. But yeah, I thought it was a shame for the reporters. Obviously, I haven't gone over to Portugal for this one. The reporters who are over there, I know what they would have been feeling like. They would have been desperate just to get that line, so you know the story. You know the story's easy. Then it's Gabriel Jesus is back in the squad. Go all the way to Portugal, Arteta turns up and gives them absolutely nothing in that press conference as usual. I can imagine the frustration in that room with a lot of my colleagues there when he refused to talk, but this is Mikel Arteta, it's what he does. He doesn't give very much away at all. Hector Bellerin, of course, playing tonight, which is great. Mikel said something about him. He said, I absolutely love the person and the player. He was a really important player for our club, one who's left something beyond just his career, but as a person as well as our club. It will be great to see him tomorrow. And I'm sure the boys and the staff will be really happy to see him again. And on Gabriel Jesus and the temptation, or resisting the temptation to rush him back, he said, we will try not to rush him back. We will try to make a fair assessment between what he needs and when he's comfortable as well, to give the team a boost that they need in the next few weeks. Everything is going well. He needs time to get himself that confident and physical state to compete with a free mind. And when he's free to do that, we will throw him in. Will that be tonight? That is the big question. I doubt it, but we shall see. Hopefully, if it's not tonight, then it's either at the weekend or next Thursday at the Emirates in the second leg of the game against Sporting. He was asked a couple of other things. There's obviously rumours about Real Madrid being interested in him at the moment. Those rumours are coming out in Spain. It's a possible replacement for Ancelotti and for next season. He said, managers or players cannot control what is written, but what I can tell you is I'm fully focused on what I'm doing here. I'm extremely happy, proud and grateful to be at this football club. You can never say never in football, obviously, but if Arsenal, whatever happens this season, Arsenal are going to be in the Champions League. I think we can say that now. It's a huge thing for Arsenal, whether they win the title or not. With Arteta, I just can't see Arteta walking out on this project at this point. You know, at some point, I'm sure he'll go, but I cannot see it being now. I think he's still far too early in this project for Arteta to even consider moving on. He's got so much more to achieve at Arsenal. So that's what he said there on Tierney and how he's dealt with not being playing. He said, very good, because we discussed the situation. We have a very similar position. He knows his role. Under me, he has played a lot, probably more than any other player, including the previous players that were at the club during the past 3 years. He understands the situation and he needs to challenge the situation. It's a tough one for Tierney. I spoke about it before. You're suddenly, this player, you're so important. People are thinking you're going to be the next captain. Then suddenly one signing comes in, the tactics change, the formation changes, and you're out in the cold a little bit. Really tough for Tierney. I think he'll go in the summer. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I think clearly this team is evolving, and it's evolving in a way that doesn't really fit Kieran Tierney, and that's no fault of Kieran Tierney, who's a fantastic left back, and I think he'll go and improve any team in the Premier League that he goes to, whether it be Newcastle or whoever. But he just isn't the type of left back that clearly Mikel Arteta wants in this team to make the team better. And I think Alexander Zinchenko is. Now, Tierney's a fantastic cover, but at his age, his experience, what he wants to achieve in the game, I don't think he's going to want to just be cover. So I'd be very, very surprised if he's still here next season, but we shall see. And even if he's not, hopefully he can get himself back fit, get rid of this illness and still play a big, big part over the closing weeks of the season, because he deserves it. He's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic bloke who the squad loves, and hopefully he can come, and if these are the final few months of his Arsenal career, that he can have very successful few months. Okay, before I go, predicted 11 wise. Now, this is going to be totally wrong. I'm sure it's going to be totally wrong. It's going to be really difficult to predict what Mikel Arteta is going to do with this one, but I'll give it a crack. Anyway, remember, this is just based on what I'm kind of predicting is going to happen. It's not based on any fact or anything like that, or insider knowledge I have on the potential starting 11 today. I think he'll make changes, no doubt about it. It's just a matter of how many he will make in terms of his Premier League starting 11. I think at the back is going to be lots of changes. So Matt Turner, I think, is going to be in goal. Then I think we're going to see Ben White, I think, will start at right back, mainly because Tierney's injured. Had Tierney been fit, I think it would have been Tomiyasu at right back and Tierney at left back. Because there's no Tierney, I think we're going to have Ben White at right back, then Rob Holding, Kivior and Tomiyasu as the back four. Then I think Granit Xhaka will play. I think he'll be in the midfield alongside Jorginho. He'll be the holding midfielder, and then it'll be Xhaka and Fabio Vieira ahead of him. Fabio Vieira playing in the kind of Martin Odegaard type role. And then up front, I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to say Nelson, Martinelli and Smith Rowe. But having said that, I would not be shocked, not be surprised at all if the team news comes out and Bukayo Saka is starting on the right side of the attack, because, as I said earlier, it just happens an awful lot. Whenever I think he's not going to start, he starts. But for me, I'm going to go with Reece Nelson and Emil Smith Rowe as the wide players, and Gabby Martinelli as the number 9. So there you go. Predicted 11 for tonight. Turner, White, Holding, Kivior, Tomiyasu, Jorginho, Xhaka, Vieira, Nelson, Martinelli and Emil Smith Rowe. Let's see how wrong that is when the team news gets announced a little bit later on. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Everyone, anything agreed with, as usual, disagreed with, what starting 11 you want to see, anything you want to say, just let me know in the comments below. Have a great day. I'll speak to you later on. Bye-bye.